Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
It's Nathaniel here, guys, and I'm pretty excited. I've got Glenn Twiddle with us, who I've actually been subscribed to for 4 or 5 years. I know he's been coaching since 2009, specifically in the real estate industry, and we're getting like tons and tons of inquiries from agents wondering how to leverage social media and all the things that are changing in the digital era. And I just think the industry is so regressed that there must be something to give. So Glenn, thanks for being with us today. Would you mind just like sharing with the audience that don't know you, the fraction of them, just an overview of how you got into coaching and why you do what you do?
Yeah, it was, man, and first off, if you've been a part of our list and you've made it 4 or 5 years with the sheer volume of me yelling at my list, I suppose, mate, a massive congrats to you. No wonder you're successful in business if you can tolerate that level of pain, man. But yeah, no, I got into this as coaching by accident because I'm a big sookie la in that I couldn't do real estate the way they taught me. They taught me cold calls. They taught me a script that worked, and it did work. When you made 400 per week, 400 calls of that script we were taught, it worked, but it just killed me, right? So I couldn't do it. And they taught me a listing presentation that got me listings. So those 2 tools they gave me worked great guns. But in doing so, it just killed my soul. I couldn't tolerate the pain that if I spoke to 100 people, 97 of them were not interested in what I was talking about, and they told me so. And I couldn't tolerate the pain of the rejection of 97 people to get to the 3 that were going to say to me maybe, or the 1 that was going to say to me yes. Couldn't do it. Way. Yeah. Couldn't do it. Because before real estate, I was a singer and a guitar player, not a good one, just good enough to get paid at the local pubs, right? Yeah. So I'd go on a Saturday night from being the life of the party, everyone buying drinks and everyone loves me kind of thing, a people person, I suppose. Because that's the thing, I wasn't that great at singing or playing guitar, but I was having fun. I just used the fact that I was enjoying myself as kind of my way of being entertaining, I suppose. And I'd sing classic rock and Copperhead Road and all that stuff, Case Sand, stuff like that. I'd try and do your countryman, just from your accent, I'm assuming UK. I'd try and do Queen, but who the hell can sing Freddie, So I'd do Crazy Little Thing Called Love. That's the one Queen song I could do. But that's what I did, right? And then I'd go into the office on a Monday and be hated by 97% of people, couldn't deal with it. So I reckon that's one of the reasons why real estate has such a high fallout rate, because it needs someone who's so strong and not caring about people to be able to tolerate the rejection. And yet when someone says maybe, they've got to be a people person, able to build rapport and close a deal and stuff. And I reckon it's that dichotomy that would have been, if that was the only way to do real estate, I wouldn't still be in it to this day. I would have been gone because I couldn't make the switch. I couldn't be hated on one hand and kind of nice and friendly and people-y on the other. So I set out to search for a way to learn from every marketing coach on the planet. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, thousands and thousands of hours. I traveled to the States every second bloody month to learn from every mentor on the planet to figure out that riddle, how to get those 3 people who were going to say to me maybe if I cold called 100, how to get them to call me without being rejected by the 97. And, that's the short, long version or whatever of kind of saying, once I figured out that riddle and got it to happen, it worked for me, worked for all of my internal staff that I trained it to. And so when other people externally started wanting to hear me and have me tell them how I'm freaking doing this thing that to the rest of the real estate world seems impossible, because they all still teach, get out there, dial for dollars, you got to prospect and all of that. When I figured out how to avoid that, I kind of became popular, I suppose, and that's why I started coaching.
Yeah, it's funny. I think people resist change even when, it's hurting them. And when I come on social media and I see a strategy that works better than mine, I resist it a little bit. I'm like, shit, but it's better.
Agreed. I'm a bit like that with Bitcoin. Because I didn't jump on early, I want it to fail because I feel in my head I'm too late and I'm resistant to it.
Yeah.
So it's funny how people are, aren't we? And we're all guilty. You and I
Yeah.
have just said people come to us for advice, and yet we're just as guilty as everyone.
Yeah. Well, not acknowledging it's the first step, I suppose. But look, I'm curious from your perspective, since you deal with so many agents and you've turned so many careers around. What are the biggest 2 or 3 mistakes that you see agents make in the marketplace that maybe some of the real estate people that are watching may want to avoid?
Yeah, I suppose it's probably more than 2 or 3. So you know what? The big one that encompasses so many under it is they don't treat real estate like other business owners treat business. We look at a mate of mine, I got him his job at Woolies when we were teenagers. And he stayed with Woolies to this day. So we're 45 now. So that's literally a 30-year career in Woolworths. So now he's in kind of upper management. And he was sharing with me in a good year and in a not so good year about their profit margins, And I asked a real estate agent, okay, if you've got $2 million in Woolworths revenue, this is a publicly listed company that must make profit to maximize payback to shareholders. So it can't dilly-dally around with this sort of thing.
Sure.
In order to make $2 million in revenue, how much did it cost them in kind of cost of goods, wages, and all of the costs of doing business to make $2 million? And most of them will say, $800,000 or $1 million or $500,000 or $200,000 or whatever. And when my mate told me that they work on between, in a bad year, 0% profit margin, sometimes loss, but if it averages out at between 8 and 12% profit, what that means is they need to spend $1.84 million to make $2 million on average. Right? $1.84 million to make $2 million. And in real estate, there's this kind of rule of thumb, so to speak, that is oftentimes a 10x multiplier, meaning if you put in $10,000 in marketing in whatever way, shape or form that might look, that's going to get you $100,000 in revenue. If you told that fact to anyone in any of your other business clients that there was 10x ROI, so if you take some seed capital of, say, $10,000, add to it some very minimally trained up manual labor, because the real estate course to get your ticket only takes in most states here in Australia 3 to 5 days to get your license.
Yeah, I actually did mine in WA a few years ago.
Yeah, okay, so a week or something, right?
Yeah.
So you take seed capital, a week worth of getting a little ticket in manual labor, and now we've got 10x ROI to revenue. Every other business owner would accuse us of lying, and yet that's exactly kind of what real estate has been. And what I think we're seeing, the hint of, that we may see more and more and more of, that heaven forbid, what if an agent's cost of client acquisition went to 30 or 40, percent, $30,000 or $40,000 to get $100,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
Or heaven forbid, they become like a normal business and they might have to work on a 20% profit margin, that it takes $80,000 to earn $100,000. Heaven forbid. I think a lack of willingness to acknowledge that they're in a business that requires some input in order to pull out an output, and that we are one of the most well-remunerated industries on the planet, and yet we take that en masse. When I say we, I mean this industry takes it for granted en masse. Those that don't and are willing to invest in developing a marketing system that pours in either money or human resources or whatever it is at one end, and then goes through this little production line that we might call a marketing system or a branding system or lead generation system or whatever, and out pops revenue at the other end. Those agents that understand that kind of conveyor belt like thinking, I think to say the biggest mistake I believe that agents make is a lack of understanding of how genuine business is run, because most of the time we, myself included, get into real estate because we've got nothing else to do. We do the 1 week course and we say, let's give real estate a go.
The access, yeah.
Yeah. And so 9 out of 10 failed in those 2 years. So there's something broken about the way it's being done.
Yeah. And I want to get onto social media because, as you know, like, things are changing so rapidly now, and I'm looking at every other industry, and slowly but surely they're catching on, albeit they're not doing it brilliantly. Most businesses are leveraging social media. They're investing in this area. They're learning. They're improving. In real estate, I have yet to come across a individual that I've seen like growth hack social media the way I've seen influencers do it in other industries. I've seen some agencies like Ray White, their page on Facebook and on Twitter, they've got a lot of likes, but the engagement doesn't seem to be there and things like that. I'm just wondering, like, from your perspective, are there any agencies that are actually using social media effectively? Similar to you, I know you use it, I know you use it well, and your mate Gary Vaynerchuk is one of the best in the world.
He's the man,
tell me, are there any out there that are actually doing it right, that are up and coming brands?
Yeah, when you say up and coming brands, that's probably not the predetermining factor. That for anyone who's saying this, well, I'm not up and coming, I'm a 50-year-old, so I can't keep up with these young 25-year-old pups. Well, that's certainly not the case. You can be an old dog and learn some new tricks. No problem there. I'm no spring chicken. I had to learn all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sure, I grew up with Commodore 64s, but I didn't grow up with these bloody things and all of the apps and hashtags and all of that stuff. I had to learn that culture,
Yeah.
So.
And it's business. It's not just using the technology, it's understanding how to use it for business, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And it's the fact that we are all, I bet you, and certainly me, we just proved that I am, most of us live our lives within arm's reach of this thing at any given time, including when we wake up in the morning. Heaven forbid, my partner, Naomi, is like, many would consider I'm punching above my weight, and I have no doubts that that's the case. In fact, my first book is going to be called, it's released next year, called Punching Above My Weight. And certainly in business and in my personal relationships, that's the case. And, the fact that I often touch my phone before I touch her when we wake up in the morning is embarrassing. I'm literally, when I do that, and it is sometimes natural, I go, no, and I've gone through where I will put this out of the room because I'm embarrassed that that's the case, and yet it is. So the fact that this is what we are sitting there glued to, I can't remember who it was I was seeing, but if it was a drug that the society was consuming chemically that was making us walk around with this look on our face, staring at our hands, we would outlaw the drug, right?
Yep.
But the fact that we may or may not agree necessarily, the fact is this thing is here, it's an extension of ourselves, so we need to be finding marketing methodologies to get in front of where our consumers are actually looking.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's spot on. I mean, I just noticed in my own business, as I do a lot of the sales, that if I'm on this thing all the time, albeit I don't like it, making money. I know that if I'm on this thing, I'm making money. And if I'm not, I don't have to think long about why I'm not being successful. I think, and I just have to take breaks regularly because you can't afford to ignore something like this. It's taking up so much of people's attention.
Well, the fact that you can take any one of your people that you're connected to on this thing, that you can push a button or two and then just go, and I'll do it right now with one of our guys. Hey, Rian, mate, I love what you're doing with your movie night, but Bud, give me a yell because I've got a few ideas that I reckon we can add some value and take a really, really good idea and turn it into a massive winner. All right, now that 30 seconds that took me no time, I did in the middle of a podcast with you. He's going to call me back, ask me what I'm talking about. I'm going to add some value to him, and that could end up being a great, great relationship. And that you saw how long that took me in real life. That's the equivalent of ye olde weldy knocking on a door and saying, hey, have you got a dirty floor? Would you like to look at my vacuum cleaner that I've got? So being on this is just the equivalent. This is how humans engage now.
And Gary V, bring him up again because I know he's a pal of yours. He's talks about like how you can use Snapchat, live Facebook.
There's our man.
There he is. Yeah, for showing people around homes and stuff. And it seems to me like a no-brainer. Have you seen any agents that are actually using these techniques?
Yeah, not so much. Yes, the answer is yes. And I'm certainly encouraging, new advents, like when Facebook's giving us a disproportionate amount of free organic viewership because they want to show off their new toy like Facebook Live, then sure, we take advantage of those opportunities where there's a little disproportionate bump in what Facebook are giving us for free.
Sure.
Or certainly when Facebook are allowing us to buy views geographically with age demographics and things like that at cents in the dollar. Of course, we're going all in, and I'm recommending guys go all in to buying those sorts of things. But more with the view we're having some success recently in getting the agent's personal brand seen by their farm area. And the side benefit, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the side benefit is they're finding the odd buyer. What we're still really mainly finding is the buyers are still coming through those real estate portals.
Yes.
And we're starting to see buyers be okay with having advertising thrust directly to them on Facebook, but it has only been in the last 6 to 12 months. And I don't know if it's the horse before the cart. Maybe it's only in the last 6 to 12 months that we've been trying to go direct to consumer via Facebook to generate buyer inquiries. But one thing that is certain is that by being there, whether it's showing people around a house or whether it's doing a competition or whether it's engaging in whatever manner, the guy I just messaged is putting on a movie night. He's hiring out the entire 400-seat cinema and he's inviting his community there to come and see. He hasn't told me what movie it is yet. I hope it's Justice League. Not that, the movie is here or there.
To be the Terminator, Glenn.
I love that too, but there's no Terminator movie this year, damn it. It's Star Wars and Superman. But yeah, so no matter what it is, we're seeing that we are making agents famous based on their social media presence in their area, to the point where many of my best guys can't go to their local shops. They certainly can't get their frozen foods because so many people want to say, hey, Glenn, how's it going? Hey, Jared, Jody, Chris, what's going on in the market? Everyone wants to talk because it's like they're bumping into Beyonce at Woolies.
Yes.
Right. And so, like Jody's kids, one of my clients, Jody Curran, magnificent woman, her kids make her promise that she's not going to talk to anyone if they go shopping with her. So she ended up saying, we're not shopping in my area. They drive 3 suburbs away just so she can do a shopping.
Now, there's the thing. Would an agent starting out, right, wouldn't they... I think I could imagine a lot of them being resistant to having an area, just thinking, well, I'll take a listing anywhere. And then they miss the opportunity to be famous or build a personal brand because they're spreading the net far too wide. Surely that must be a huge error.
Yeah, probably one of the things that the industry has accepted as maybe an industry norm that is probably routed in being true is they're okay. Yes, of course, they'll take a listing wherever they can get one, but they're okay with the principle of farming is one that goes back in real estate a ways. So it's almost like they are okay with that principle. But the one thing they're not doing is they're not learning how to use Facebook well enough to farm smaller. Like they're just clicking boost and taking whatever default audience Facebook gives them, sometimes a 40K radius with a 600,000 member audience, and they're doing a $20 boost to it and wondering why that's like a teaspoon of hot water in an ice cold swimming pool. Rather than bringing those it's a very simple tactic to bring your geographic thing down to a 2-kilometer radius, to bring your age demographic so that it no longer defaults to 18 years old to 65 plus, like bring that into the ideal range of a property seller, be it 32 to maybe 59 or something. And by doing that, by bringing in the geography from a 40K radius to a 2K radius, by bringing the age up and down, they're probably saving 95% of their advertising spend that it would have taken if they were going to spray shotgun advertise like many of them are currently doing.
I think there's an indicator now as well that's called Like the Move, which looks at things like, their relationship status or like what profession they're in, and to be able to predict which properties are more likely to have, or what suburbs might have people moving. There's so many opportunities, but it's like how much they have to do so much. It's like they're running their own little business, and it's so much to learn. To find somebody that knows what they're doing, because my industry is very immature. Like it's not like the real estate industry. We don't have certification. So I don't think I've ever brought on a client that hasn't been burnt before by an online marketer.
Absolutely, mate. You're right. It is like the freaking wild west with everyone with their thing. Yeah. And here's what I'd even say for your guys that are listening, if they're wanting to get started and maybe take something away from this, is yes, Facebook have got big data working on things like likely to move. But what I'm saying is while Facebook is so cheap, and out of all the social media spectrum, we're focusing in on Facebook, rightly so, because it's the big dog in the yard. I would say just bring in the geography, bring down the age, and I would probably not mess around. I would just leave it at that. I would say let's not teach them Formula One racing car driving, kind of, getting it so finely tuned. Let's just teach them how to drive their Holden Commodore really, really well. So if they can if the first step they can get is just figure out how to bring in the geography and the age, because the way I probably wouldn't want to preclude anyone that Facebook deems as not likely to move, because while Facebook's still honing its algorithm, if they're of that age and in that geography, I'm happy to spend my 1 cent for them to see my head for another, 10 seconds. Take my 1 cent, Facebook. Mr. Zuckerberg, take my money. Well, when it gets to $1 a view, which it will get to, and I will still be there paying my dollar per view, then we might need to get a little more clever with our targeting. But while it's 1 cent, the way I see it, it's probably underpriced by a factor of 20 times minimum.
Yeah, I agree.
Take my money.
If you're using it effectively. So we look at Uber, replacing the biggest taxi company owns no taxis, right? You look at Amazon, biggest book distributor owns no bookstores. You got Airbnb, biggest travel company, has got no hotels. I think that every industry is going to be disrupted to some degree. And where do you think real estate is going to be hit first? Do you think it's going to be to do with the number of agents, or to do with the contract signing, or to do with something else altogether? Where do you think that technology is going to be making its mark soon?
Yeah, we're seeing people make plays all over the industry because there's so many I don't even know the number, but there's billions of dollars worth of commission being transacted. And so while ever there's that much revenue being eaten up by a middleman, or in this case, middlemen, there's going to be people with eyes on that prize. Carsales.com, that website disrupted the car industry, and it was a fraction of the revenue that the real estate industry kind of enjoys. So it's being attacked on all sides, and thus far unsuccessfully. But you mentioned a few of them. You mentioned, and I know one of the guys that is playing with the contract signing side, because that can't stay as paper and ink the way it has been. So there's things like DocuSign out there. There's my man's done his house rule thing, which is kind of a combo of the DocuSign kind of process, electronic signing, managing the process from start to finish. Some of those, let's say, disruptors will be able to be accepted and adopted by the industry. The big scare thing is if someone like a Google, or someone like a Facebook, someone with clout, someone like an Amazon comes in and says, we're going direct to consumers, and if the consumers listen, then the one thing that the real estate industry, the agents, as in that middleman, I do believe that there will no longer be 50,000 real estate agents. Like, you have a look at any stripper shops. You go down any stripper shops down at Joondalup or in Brisbane or wherever, you'll see a real estate agent and a hairdresser, then a real estate agent, then a butcher, then a real estate agent, then a sushi shop, then a real estate agent, then a whatever.
And the ones that stay are the ones that build the brand.
Yeah, but it can't be that. It must. I mean, think about the inefficiencies of scale. If there are 15 little businesses or 10 little businesses, equally as unidentifiable to each other, they all look pretty much the same thing. Think about how if they were all sushi shops, we would scratch our heads and laugh. But yet somehow we've convinced the community out there that that's okay with real estate agents. But what that says to me is, if all 10 of them could actually be serviced by 2 agencies or 1, then we must be overpaid. So I believe the pressure is going to come on fee. That the days of being remunerated to the degree agents are remunerated.
But it's such a big disparity from the guys that are making loads and that aren't. I mean, what other industry do you have some people making 40 grand and some people making $2 million a year?
Yeah, I wonder if, I often wonder that as well. Well, things like sports, that's true. You have some people that play on the weekends with their kids, play rugby league or play tennis for free or even pay to play. And yet you have other people that are remunerated millions and everywhere in between. And I wonder
that's
if
not a bad way to look at it.
Yeah. So, but yet the thing is that those people who are playing for free or playing for little or no money are breaking even 50 grand a year. They may as well be getting a job working for you or something, then that guy isn't behaving in the manner with which that $1 million performer is behaving, or not even is behaving now, but you know what, was behaving at their level of experience.
Yes.
When that $1 million performer today, what was he doing in his first or second year? What wasn't he doing? I bet you he wasn't going out living this work-life balance, raising his kids, swimming in the park and doing all those things. He was learning the craft. He was practicing like a madman, like the great Michael Jordan. You know, he would be first to come, last to leave when he was the least one who needed to practice.
Yes.
And yet he's Michael Jordan. You know
Yes.
what I mean? So there's probably something to that. You mentioned, you know, Arnold off camera before, you know, I've now, you know, worked and socialized with Arnold Schwarzenegger, with Sylvester Stallone, all those guys. I
saw a video of you on YouTube where he took you to the gym.
Yeah, he was giving me a touch up the bugger at Gold's Gym. That was a bit of fun. I'm still working on my lessons there in a physical sense, but certainly his work ethic, it exists to this day, you know, but he could rest on his laurels if he wasn't. He's maintained the same work ethic now as he did in his day. And he used to go so hard for 16, 18 hours a day. And, you know, no doubt, you know, someone said, I can't remember who it was, but, you know, don't whine about the results you don't get from the work you didn't do.
Yes. Awesome.
You know?
I love that. Yeah, so true. Giving up is like, you know, it's one sure way to fail or lose. Isn't it? So I guess finally, just to wrap things up, where should agencies be focusing their attention in 2018 with their marketing, sales? Over to you. What do you think their attention should be on?
Yeah, I suppose two things. Is one, building a personal brand that is focused on them as the primary and foremost brand, meaning, of course, we've all got a corporate brand, and hopefully your corporate brand, your viewer's corporate brand, hasn't got a bad reputation in the marketplace, because there are some agencies more than others that aren't liked. Now, the industry as a whole isn't terribly well liked by the community out there, but there are some brands that in the eyes of the consumer kind of represent that industry more than others. You know, some maybe of the more newer brands, or if they're a bit funky or they do something at a brand level to differentiate themselves, you know, hopefully your corporate brand isn't just by the very nature of its name hated by half the community. But so long as you've got that corporate brand that is acceptable, then leading with your personal brand. Because here's the metaphor I like to think. Say you and I are having a drink at a barbecue on a Saturday afternoon. And I ask you, because I know you've got a sign up out the front of your yard for sale, and I say, how's the sale going? You know, you've been on the market for a couple of months. When are you moving, man? And you've got a typical real estate agent, and you're saying, oh, don't know, mate, haven't heard from the agent for a little bit. It's been on the market for a while, and, you know, I heard from him a bit at the start, and that's what happens. Over time, you hear from them less and less because they're too embarrassed to give you some feedback and all of that. So never yet in the history of backyard drunken barbecues has anyone said, oh, you know what you have to do, Nathaniel? You've got to call insert whatever brand you like here. You know, you've got to call a Ray White agent in, because I know they're all idiots, including your guy, but you've got to call a Ray White guy in, or you've got to call a Harcourt's guy in, or you've got to call a McGrath, or whomever. Name your brand, doesn't matter. No one ever said, yeah, Nathaniel, you got to call in X brand because they're awesome. They're all idiots, but that brand is awesome. That never happened. Yet, if we're slurping on a Corona or whatever we're drinking, and you're saying you're a little bit dissatisfied with your current agent or whatever, your half-drunken mate will say, well, that's because you didn't call Chris Gilmore, my guy. You got to call my guy. Here's his card. He'll look after you. That game can be won at a personal brand level. You know, when you look at the most trusted professions lists, real estate agents is always right down the bottom as not to be trusted. You're never going to change that at a corporate level, but you can change that at a personal brand level. If you can lead where you, the person, not you, actually, let me just show you real quick. I just got my slides open because I did just get off a call.
No worries.
Yeah, well, if this is Tom Carl. Now, Tom's a beast, right? This young man from the south side of Perth is an animal, and this is what his sort of...
How old is he? Doesn't look very...
Yeah, he's young. He was doing $1 million, and that was his personal brand, right? Now, we changed his brand so that he started to look more personable. So
Wow.
this was his new branding shots after I kind of got through with him. So I met him when he was doing $1 million. Now he's doing just shy of 2, on track to do 3 in this next financial year. But see the difference, that is a person. Or my partner, Naomi, we talked about punching above my weight before. This is my partner, Naomi. She was a real estate agent before I met her, a very successful one. So you can see that these photos show her personality, show her as a person. But most real estate agents don't have photos like my client and just I love Jody. Look at the personality that comes through in Jody Curran's marketing shots. Now from there, we make all of these various marketing pieces that lead with her personality. This is one of her newest billboards. Here's another one. This is a billboard with tens of thousands of cars going past a day. So she's leading with her personal brand in her marketing collateral. So I guess the thing that I would say with their marketing, if they can do personal brand led marketing, and deploy it where the people are looking on their devices, on their Facebooks, on their social media, etc. If they can combine those two elements, now we're talking macro, we're talking big picture here. There's of course a lot of minutia to how to do that. But to broadly answer your question, get on their phones, get in their social timelines in every way you possibly can, and lead with you as a person and a personal brand, and hopefully be supported by a decent corporate brand. But if you can get those two elements right, you then go and get famous to your community. And
the biggest investment like they can make is, if it's not working, is to invest in training. And who better than the guy that's just been sharing all this information with us, the guy that's got the results. And I think that's the key, is like when anyone's choosing an online marketer or choosing a real estate coach, I think the key is, and I don't know why a lot more people don't do this, is just to look at the clients that they've worked with, see what the results say, speak to a couple of them, see if it's true what they have to say about the provider, and then make a decision, because that decision can make all the difference. And I think if you're saving on price, you're probably going to get an inferior service. I think you should be looking for the guy that's got results, and then following the process that's laid out in front of you. And I'm curious to know what that might be with you. Do you do one-on-ones, or is it just the group events, and where are they? And
I guess any marketer worth his salt doesn't need to do anything other than say Glenn Twiddle and you'll find me. You know what I mean? So if anyone wants me, that us marketers, we're not hard to find. And if we are, then one's got a question. How good a marketer are you again? Kind of thing. But that being said, I would even say if someone is a bit tight and they are newer, most of us who have got a lot to share are more than willing to give away those first few steps for free. So there's so much free stuff that you can get from anyone worth their salt. Because if you only get the decent stuff behind the pay line, then there may not be that much behind there, whereas I kind of think that I'm willing to always go first. I'm willing to get you started. I want you guys thinking, shit, if this is what he's given away for free, what the hell's this 60 grand a year coaching program all about that everyone's raving about? I want to help you get to be able to afford to give me 60 grand a year kind of thing. So definitely if you're a bit tight on dollars, don't give anyone a dime, because there's plenty of good free stuff to just get you started. And that's how I started.
Well,
I got a guy
for 5 years, haven't I? In the industry.
That's it. But that's how I started, dude, with a guy's pack of 12 discs for free. I took what I learned in that, and I earned, I know it's not a lot of money, but I earned a 12 grand check based on what I implemented in that. And with that 12 grand, I spent 3 grand on the same guy to buy an information pack of stuff. And then with that 3 grand sort of information pack of stuff, I ended up earning 100 grand. And then with that, I put 50 grand of it back into the You Become the Mentor full immersion year-long program. So I just kept going all in. And dude, to this day, I still do the same thing. I go all in with my mentoring.
Like spent, over $500,000 on personal development from what I can tell from working with.
Yeah, I spent a squillion. To this day, I'm about to go to Vegas, not to freaking play the pokies and all that. I'm about to go to Vegas to do 2 days with, again, another one of my mentors.
Not Grant Cardone.
No, Frank Kern. You probably know Kern.
Yeah, sure.
Going to do 2 days with Kern. So in next week. And that dude's an animal, and so I'm investing all the time because I want to stay ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? I don't want my guys to catch me. I want them to never get, I never want them to have to say, yeah, I got everything Twiddle's got to teach. No, you haven't, because I'm staying ahead of you.
And you bring in, I saw you brought in Schwarzenegger we mentioned, Gary V. You're on stage with Richard Branson, I saw. He was cutting off your tie or something.
Richard's a dude.
I mean, all this additional value. I mean,
Well, understand the principle of that. And certainly, of course, it's dream come true stuff, whether it's, Arnold and his two sons. One's his real son, Patrick, and of course, there's his fake son, me. Whether it's Richard, we had Richard Branson at our event. But understand the thinking behind this. If we go to, this was the event that Richard spoke at, right? It was called the Titans of Real Estate. Now, I just pulled this up out of our slide deck because this is a principle that I was teaching one of my students before I jumped on with you, is what the hell is Glenn Twiddle doing there as headliner with Richard Branson when the numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4 real estate agents in the country are on the undercard, in inverted commas. John McGrath and Matt Steinway, probably two of the best blokes in the game and probably two of the most famous blokes in real estate. Yep. And then Phil Harris and a literal who's who of the best real estate agents in the country there. How the hell does Glenn Twiddle get frickin' there? It's nuts, right? And Richard Branson headlining. That shouldn't be the case. And yet there it is. So the reason that's me following my own principle that I teach my guys, is that we need to be associating with the next level than what we actually are. And if that's going to cost us, a paycheck to invest a little bit in a loss-leading opportunity like this, then that's the price to pay. So when I say to my guys, that like our guy that we spoke about before, he's putting on a movie night. That's costing him $4,000 and there will not be a listing generated from that, not one. Yeah. Now, there may be in the future. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's all of that craziness is me kind of living the life of my dreams because I get to hang out with my heroes, whether it's my entrepreneurial heroes, Gary Vaynerchuk, Richard Branson, et cetera, whether it's my teenage heroes, Stallone and Schwarzenegger and all of that. Last week, literally, I had my 10-year-old hero. We did an event and Agro was the headliner. So I'm getting other than the living my dreams kind of thing, it's also a principle that I'm following that I encourage everyone to follow. Like invest in things that give you positioning within your area so that over time you cash in that positioning for profit in the future. Yeah, awesome. Love it. I think that it sounds like your shit, excuse my French, but I think real estate's just one of those most competitive. It's like a sport, and I think you've got to be in it to win, otherwise get out, because I think it's just too cutthroat otherwise. There's going to be a lot of changes in the near future. I don't think it's going to get any easier. And I think that what you've shared with us today is invaluable, mate. I really appreciate you jumping on the call with me. It's such short notice. Man. Yeah, no, my pleasure, bud. So, guys, look, Glenn Twiddle, Google him, make contact, reach out, get some free stuff. I'll give him the only place it's actually me is Facebook. Everywhere else, even emails, I don't have an email address. How embarrassing is that? It's my team that runs everything else. But if they PM me on Facebook, it's actually me. Okay, well, head on to Facebook, guys. Awesome. Thanks, Glenn, very much. I appreciate it, and have a good weekend. You too, Nathan. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it, bud.